and that it may be appropriate to start looking at an opportunity to work together for 2012. After 3 days of discussions this week, we reached an agreement yesterday.
Ross, do you feel you've stabbed Mark Harvey in the back?
Not particularly, no. I've been headhunted by the Fremantle Football Club, certainly taking through a PowerPoint presentation the club's resources, their future direction and what they want to achieve. And an attractive offer was put in front of me. I'm an AFL career coach. I have a young family, 3 children and a wife. They are my purpose. And at the other end, I had no involvement or no understanding of the relationship between Fremantle Football Club and Mark Harvey. Sit here today, I hold my head high.
Mr Harris, given that the club was going around behind Mark Harvey's back to do this deal, were you able to look Harvey in the eye when you sacked him?
Yes, absolutely.
With a clear conscience?
In terms of that, just to answer the question, we reached agreement with Ross yesterday after conversations which clearly progressed very quickly, within a very short space of time. In fact, within minutes of Ross advising St Kilda of his right to exercise the option to exit his contract, we spoke to Mark personally, face to face, and clearly delivered what is a very difficult decision.
Steve, is this not a public relations disaster, Steve? Is this a public relations disaster? Yesterday, Mark Harvey turns up at a football function, unaware of his future, which had already been decided, and then...
Just to clarify, no, it hadn't. There was only a position reached on both the resolution of Mark's tenure as senior coach of the club and also the appointment of Ross Lyon yesterday afternoon.
But at that point, he was being misled about your intent, wasn't he? He thought he was going to be coaching next year.
Yes.
You clearly thought that was not a possibility.
It clearly was a possibility, and at that point in time, it clearly was a possibility.
Are you really saying that at a particular point in time yesterday afternoon, he was only ruled out there?
At a particular point in time yesterday afternoon, off the cuff around about 4 o'clock, 3:30 Perth time, that position was reached. Yes.
What did Mark Harvey do wrong?
Look, in terms of Mark, firstly, Mark's been a passionate football person for a long time and a passionate, great servant of the Fremantle Footy Club for the last six years. Every year, twice yearly, we sit down and review Mark's performance, which clearly looks at Mark's development areas. Those areas are private and confidential out of due respect to Mark and all parties concerned, and we've made an assessment that Ross Lyon, an experienced, capable coach with a track record of success, is the right person to take the Fremantle Football Club forward to secure our aim of sustained success.
Online, Mr Harris said that you are the right fit culturally for the club. Can you explain that, given that they've probably just trashed the culture and you've just walked out on St Kilda? What's the culture?
Well, I think if we clarify walking out on St Kilda, I've exercised, when I reached agreement with St Kilda Football Club over my last contract extension, they wrote in a 6-month exit when I was asking for a full guarantee, and on the back of that, a 3-month written resignation clause and an out was put in for me if circumstances for either party arose where they wanted to exercise those options, they could. So that situation arose for me. So I've done nothing unlawful but exercise an option that was written into my contract, has been there over the last couple of years, and I've done that.
So Ross, you've been accused of duplicitous conduct on the other side of the country. Didn't you make a public commitment to St Kilda earlier this week?
I think, just to clarify that, I heard the St Kilda press conference. It's been a wonderful 5 years for both parties. Both parties achieved a lot, ultimately fell short. St Kilda are clear in thanking me for my time there, although disappointed, and they're really keen about the future and a new direction, as am I.
Ross, Adrian Demetrio.
And integrity. How can you honestly say that you've been loyal and held integrity with St Kilda after what's happened and what you've told the players?
Well, just let me reiterate, my conversations with the players are just speculation and reporting, so they happen behind closed doors.
The players say they are surprised that you had indicated you were staying and coming back next year.
Well, that's a point of conjecture. I sit here very comfortable with my integrity and my honour. I've exercised a clause in my contract. My negotiations were started in April. I asked for a 4-year unconditional deal. That wasn't forthcoming until Wednesday afternoon.
Why has your management then terminated your deal?
That's good. Just let me clarify that. There was a clear conflict of interest once contact was made, and it was inappropriate to engage ESP, who were my new management arm, in conversations. I engaged a legal advisor from Clarendon Lawyers, who then conducted negotiations with and for me.
So your conscience is clear with regards to St Kilda Football Club?
Can I just get back to ESP, please?
Yep.
And with ESP, when I informed them, we both mutually agreed that it was best that they could no longer manage me because they were concerned about perception in the marketplace, even though they had not one conversation regarding this.
Mr Harris, do you think this just crystallises in people's minds now that, in fact, there is no loyalty in football anymore and it's just every man for himself?
Before I answer that question, I'd just like to address the earlier question about Andrew Demetrio's comments. I've spoken to Andrew this morning because I think his comments are inappropriate. I've advised him of that. He doesn't have a first-hand understanding of what has transpired. He's expressed to me that his comments were personal opinion, and I don't think he's fully informed in the situation. Andrew's got strong opinions on a lot of things. In this case, he's ill-informed.
Well, what about this demonstrates integrity, though?
We have at all times in this process carried out to the letter of the contract with everyone's contract, and when you have employment discussions between individuals, as everyone in this room would be aware, necessarily you need to keep them confidential.
Can I just bring you back to my question, mate?
Yes.
There's no loyalty in football now, is there? It's everyone out for themselves. It's just business now.
I don't think there's no loyalty, but I think clearly there is an expectation from members and supporters that clubs will do their utmost to play finals and win premierships.
Right, so anyone there's no expression of loyalty to anyone. I mean, that takes secondary position to success.
I think the real issue is that what people want is they want to see their clubs play finals and win premierships.
Well, yesterday morning, what level of commitment do you think that you had to Mark Harvey?
Well, as of yesterday morning, Mark was our senior coach, and we reached a position in the afternoon of yesterday.
Somebody that you were at least half expecting to replace him.
We were exploring a possibility.
Well, you were hoping, weren't you?
We were exploring a possibility. Clearly, we were hoping because we've identified Ross as an experienced, capable coach that we think is a great fit for the Fremantle Football Club.
So
Don't you
were
think
your
you
senior
owe it to
players
him to-
consulted yesterday?
No, they weren't.
Are they now divided about this?
No, the players were informed yesterday afternoon, just prior to the media release of our decision with respect to Mark, and they are in fact being briefed at the club as we speak.
So they had no say in the decision?
No, this is a process which the board and executive are responsible for.
So are they now divided? That was the question.
No, our playing group is a solid playing group. We're very comfortable, and from the few conversations that I have had with players, they're very much looking forward to working with Ross.
Ross, do you think your reputation has been tarnished by this?
Well, it's an opinion business. As I said, I sit very comfortably with my unconditional commitment to the St Kilda Football Club in my tenure there, and my support for St Kilda and the players, as was their unconditional commitment to me and support. All I've done is exercise. Negotiations went on for a long time, and an opportunity arose where, as a career AFL coach, I was to be satisfied. And when you look around in the environment, as an incumbent AFL coach, what occurred at a number of other AFL clubs, you can understand a career AFL coach looking for security and resource. And all I've done is exercise the option in my contract to do the right thing by myself and my family.
So Ross, when you preach loyalty to your players, which you'll do, how do you look the players in the eyes over the next 2 years when Greater Western Sydney are sniffing around? How do you then look them in the eye and say, show loyalty to the football club?
I'll just take you back a little bit. You're making a big assumption, as I'm hearing a lot about the word loyalty. In my 5 years at St Kilda, I've never used the word loyalty to a player. So they're outside perceptions, and perceptions that you think an AFL coach uses to motivate his players. It's not in any pre-game or Monday to Friday talk to me. So let's just clarify that. So it's an assumption that you're making that is wrong.
Mr Ross, given that it's a business decision, this has been based on business, did you inform your sponsors, the club sponsors, before you sacked Harvey?
As a matter of process, shortly after informing Mark directly, there was a very tight time frame, clearly, to releasing a media release. Scott Gooch, our General Manager Commercial Partner, contacted a number of our key sponsors in advance of
So
that.
they were spoken to after Harvey was
Correct.
sacked.
Ross, are you the
What have
first
told
$1
the
million
St Kilda
coach in the
players?
AFL? Will you be the first $1 million coach in the AFL?
I'd be unaware of that because I have no inclination or no desire to know what anyone else is earning, and I don't think it's appropriate for anyone else to know what I earn.
How is it you've been funded though? Is it through the increased AFL rights? And clearly you've been given an attractive package here.
I'd like to echo what Ross said. In terms of the actual specific terms, they're private and confidential in a professional context. We believe we've struck a very commercial deal with Ross. It is clear that this is not a financial decision by Ross. It's an opportunity to work with a football club that is mutually beneficial, and we want to secure success together.
Have your major sponsors tipped in extra, like Woodside tipped in extra to sort of fund this move?
No.
So why did you leave St Kilda, Ross? Do you feel that you can't make them go any further if they've given you or offered you the same length of deal as what Fremantle has?
I think I'll refer you to what I said earlier and echo the sentiments of Greg Westaway and Michael Netterfold. It was a strong 5-year relationship. There was enormous amounts achieved. Ultimately, we fell short, and both parties leave hungry for a premiership and an opportunity to do that with their respective clubs.
So, Ross, off the back of that, what can you achieve at Fremantle? Everyone obviously has a strong view about how they can get better, and you've got a proven record as a coach. What do you think is the potential of this squad?
It's about possibility. You can be what you want to be, and that's my whole philosophy. And then once you decide what you want to be, you've got to bring that to life by getting into work. Every moment of the day, you've got to pursue excellence. So you're either getting closer to your goal or you're getting further away. So that's the philosophy I bring, and that's what we'll be pursuing. And all I know is if you don't prepare every moment of the day in that manner, you're getting further away from your goal.
And your view of this
Mark
list?
Harvey's going to see this. What would you like to say to him?
Well, certainly what it is what it is. I'm now appointed the Fremantle coach, but as I said, I was headhunted by the Fremantle Football Club. I certainly, at the other end of that, it wasn't my responsibility or my desire to make that position available. The contract was put in front of me, I was courted, I was shown all the resources of the club. It was an attractive proposition. Certainly there's strong empathy, but at the end of the day, it wasn't my responsibility to make the position available. I just accept it.
Do you think it's fair?
It's not a judgment I would like to make. It's, as the media in Melbourne say, it's a harsh, brutal environment, AFL football.
What did you tell the St Kilda players, Ross?
Well, again, there's lots of assumptions. I spoke to 3 players. Personally, Nick Rewalt, after I went from ESP 6:15, where we mutually decided it was inappropriate, and they were really concerned, obviously. I drove up to the Epworth. Nick had just come out of operation with his partner, Catherine, and just out of recovery. And I was fortunate that he hadn't been informed by anyone else. And obviously we had an emotional, probably 20 minutes together. But again, that's for me and Nick to share. And then I drove to Lenny Hayes' house and spoke to Lenny Hayes in Brighton. And obviously I received some text messages which I responded in kind. But again, they're private. We've been through a lot together. And all I know is they gave for Grant Thomas, they gave for me, and they'll give to their next coach, and they're hungry, and I wish them all the best.
Having raised ESP, their CEO Craig Kelly says that the manner in which this was done was inconsistent with the values which football should uphold. Can I ask you, Mr. Lyon, what values do you think represent football these days?
Well, I think you'd have to ask Craig. He's making the assertion. So
What do you
I would
think
say,
are the values of football now?
what I think the values in football,
Yeah.
the values are about hard work, discipline, mental toughness, and a desire to compete every moment of the game.
Values are more about honour and loyalty and respect, aren't they?
Well, there are
stuff's just stuff you do.
Well, there are motive terms that you're using, and I'm not here to debate the values that exist in AFL football.
Are those who show loyalty to a club misguided then? Because you said earlier that you've never used loyalty as a motivating factor for your players.
Well, what I will say is Lee Matthews is one of the great coaches of all time, and I think he sums up loyalty in the AFL better than anyone. When you're paid and you're contracted, you give every effort you can with unconditional commitment to that club, and that is loyalty, and we're all passing through. And when you leave, walk out the door with dignity.
Sorry, just